All right, let's dive right into this explainer, because right now, the AI landscape has completely shattered every expectation we had. Today, we're breaking down the 2026 AI explosion, and more importantly, we're giving you the exact builder's blueprint you're going to need to actually thrive in this new era.
I mean, just look at this number, $581 billion. According to the Stanford AI Index report, that is the staggering amount of corporate cash poured into AI globally in 2025 alone. To put that into perspective, that's a massive 129% jump from just the year before. Private investment is absolutely skyrocketing. We're seeing billion-dollar funding rounds practically doubling, and companies like NVIDIA, they've crossed this mind-bending $4 trillion valuation. So this isn't just from passing trend, okay? This is a massive, coordinated capital shift toward a totally AI-first economy.
And honestly, the reason all this money is flowing is super clear. 88%. A massive 88% of organizations surveyed have now actively adopted AI into their daily workflows. Whether we're talking about healthcare tools that reduce physician burnout by automatically generating clinical notes, or marketing teams seeing a 50% bump in their output, the business value is just undeniable at this point. But, and there's a big but here, while adoption is literally everywhere, the gap between what this tech can actually do and people's deep understanding of how it works, that gap is widening by the minute.
And that brings us to a frankly terrifying reality for tech workers right now. Entry-level software jobs dropped nearly 20% for developers in the 22 to 25 age bracket. Why? Well, because frontier AI models are now getting dangerously close to 100% on intense coding benchmarks like SWE Bench. So AI isn't just a fancy autocomplete anymore. It's out there solving PhD-level science problems and crushing complex reasoning tests. The fallout is hitting entry-level roles the hardest, which basically means you have to adapt and you have to do it immediately. You just can't afford to be a casual user of these tools anymore.
Part 1. From user to AI builder. If you want to survive and thrive in this new market, you have to completely flip your mindset. You've got to stop just consuming AI products and start engineering them. Seriously, the wall between using AI and building AI is totally gone. The tools are democratized now, but knowing how to actually stitch them together architecturally, that is exactly what separates the obsolete from the highly valued. Let's be real, the role of a basic prompt engineer is dead. Typing clever little sentences into a chatbot was just a stepping stone. It's not a career. The new gold standard is the AI systems architect. This is someone who builds complex, autonomous systems. You take a business process, design a continuous loop of reasoning, and automate the whole shebang end to end.
Which leads us to Part 2, Python and LLM foundations.
You know the saying, you can't build a skyscraper on a swamp, right? Well, in AI engineering, you cannot build robust apps if you treat the model like some magical black box. We have to build a rock-solid foundation, starting with the undisputed language of AI. You need to master advanced Python, stuff like async and type hinting, along with data powerhouses like NumPy and Pandas. Then, you've got to get into the math behind neural networks and really understand the attention mechanism in transformer architectures. Like, how do tokenization and context windows actually function under the hood? And finally, we have to stop relying on magic phrases and start demanding structured output. By using tools like Pydantic, your code doesn't just cross its fingers and hope the AI spits out valid JSON, it rigidly enforces it.
Now, what's incredibly helpful here is Praneeth Kalluri's overarching 8-week blueprint. It takes you from those exact fundamentals we just talked about all the way to deploying a full capstone project. Just notice how it flows. You start by really understanding LLMs, move into those structured outputs, and then rapidly scale up to building agents, RAG pipelines, and multimodal systems. By the end of this 8-week sprint, you aren't just reading theory. You are actually pushing 8 distinct working projects to your GitHub portfolio. And honestly, showing real deployed code is exactly how you prove your worth in 2026.
Moving on to Part 3, AI agents and tool calling. Once your base is locked in, we jump into what is easily the most exciting phase of 2026, agentic workflows. Standard one-and-done prompts? That's legacy tech. If you want to build solutions that actually mimic how humans solve problems, you need to understand AI agents. To put it super simply, an AI agent is not just a chatbot. It's this autonomous loop that thinks, makes a plan, and takes actual actions to solve multi-step problems. Instead of just dumping a giant prompt and hoping for the best, the agent looks at the task, breaks it down, decides on the best order of operations, and iterates. It's stateful. If it hits a wall, it can actually pivot and correct itself. A perfect example of this is the Smart Study Planner project.
This perfectly illustrates an agentic workflow in action. A user just types in what they want to learn, right? And the AI autonomously breaks the topic down, researches the best learning order, and drafts a customized, day-by-day curriculum complete with quizzes. But the coolest part? The user actually gets to watch the agent think in real time. You see every step of its reasoning process as it builds out that final plan. Building a project like this teaches you exactly how that agent loop functions and why it's such a game changer.
And the way agents actually pull off this magic is through something called tool calling. This is the absolute superpower that turns a simple text generator into a dynamic system that interacts with the real digital world. By setting up strict parameters, you literally give your AI the ability to run web searches, read private databases, trigger external APIs, or even execute terminal commands. The AI gets to autonomously decide which tool it needs to use based on what the user asked for. It makes the LLM an incredibly powerful orchestrator.
All right, part 4, RAG and vector databases.
Now we have to talk about what is, without a doubt, the #1 most in-demand AI engineering skill in the enterprise world today. Companies don't just want an AI that's generally smart. They need an AI that is smart about their specific business. It has to know their internal docs, their product specs, their HR policies. So RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, is simply the process of securely feeding your private business data to the AI so it gives accurate answers backed by real citations. Look, a huge limitation of standard models is that their knowledge is frozen in time, which leads to those crazy hallucinations. RAG fixes this. It forces the AI to search your specific documents first and base its answer strictly on what it finds. If there are no sources, it gives no answer. Problem solved.
The mechanics of RAG are actually totally logical. First, you take a massive document and chunk it down into smaller pieces. Then you convert those chunks into vector embeddings, which, if you don't know, are basically just mathematical representations of what the text actually means. You store those embeddings in a vector database like pgvector. So when a user asks a question, the system searches that database, grabs the most relevant chunks, and passes them to the LLM. The LLM then uses that specific context to generate a verified, highly accurate response, complete with inline citations.
Finally, part 5, building the autonomous future. So, we've gone from Python basics to enforcing structured output, right up through complex agentic loops and secure retrieval pipelines. All the pieces are on the board now, which brings us to the ultimate goal of your engineering journey this year. The mandate from the industry is loud and clear. Stop building static chatbots. Start building continual learning autonomous systems that are out there solving problems while you sleep. The most highly valued AI engineers in 2026 are creating apps that actually get smarter with every single user interaction. They capture corrected responses, feed them back into loops for future fine-tuning, and ensure the system naturally evolves over time without needing constant manual handholding. With everything we've walked through in this explainer, the exact blueprint is right there in front of you. The 2026 AI explosion is going to be absolutely ruthless to the people who just sit still. But it offers unimaginable leverage to the ones who step up to actually engineer the solutions. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to spark your next move. The tools are accessible, the roadmap is crystal clear, and the demand is off the charts. Are you ready to build the future?